Good evening, I'm Charles Molineaux. The plan is all school is delayed by 1 day and high school will start remotely. That's not going over well with students or parents or the school board.
News 10 NBC's Charles Molineaux is live on Broad Street downtown. Charles, what's happening right now?
Well, Nikki, the situation has turned into a confrontation between police and the protesters. You can see the line set up here across Broad Street, another one facing west. And if you look north on Exchange, a line where protesters had come south on Exchange and police ordered them to disperse. News 10 took that encouragement and drove down to Wyoming County, where the Orangeville wind farm has been in operation with 58 wind turbines since 2014. One big concern for the neighbors is the Wolcott Creek, which flows immediately adjacent to the site, and then into the village of Wolcott, and then into Port Bay, and on into Lake Ontario. A makeshift memorial has now sprung up on this stretch of St. Jacob Street, where friends and neighbors say Thomas Hardaway used to sit on nice days, visit, hold court. They knew him as Fuzzy, and they say he was a neighborhood institution. Brett, the board's in the process of voting in a private room because the meeting itself actually dissolved into chaos as a decisive number of board members indicated that they were going to support the plan for the layoffs. Well, if anything in your car is going to pop on you, you're probably thinking of the tires down below, not the sunroof overhead. But consumer watchdogs and federal safety officials say, yes, exploding sunroofs really are happening. Well, farmers say this crop of about 6,000 hemp plants in Tompkins County is showing real promise and growth in its very first season. However, under federal law, it is still a Schedule I controlled substance. Technically, the DEA could come and raid this place. Well, the demonstration started out calmly enough, but turned into an intense confrontation out here in front of the Blue Cross Arena with police at Broad and Exchange after a march that started out on Jefferson Avenue right at the scene where Daniel Prude died, and including a celebration of a victory, the announcement that the Attorney General's office is planning to convene a grand jury to investigate Prude's death.
That usually takes months. It usually takes months and months for that to happen.
The protesters marched into downtown and stopped at City Hall, where they gathered and demanded the resignations of Police Chief LaRon Singletary, Mayor Lovely Warren, and County Executive Adam Bello. It was then that they started marching south on State, then onto Exchange, towards the Public Safety Building, and that was where they met a line of police and barricades. The police declared this an unlawful gathering, and that was when the bottles and flaming debris and fireworks started flying at the cops. The cops fired back with pepper balls, tear gas, and flashbangs. I actually got hit by one of those pepper balls myself. That's smarts. Police then moved north on Exchange with tear gas and in force as the protesters moved north onto State, and police started saying they would be arresting them. That situation continued into the night. As they started out at what was then a peaceful gathering, the demonstrators said they expected that this might be going on well into the night, and it has. In Rochester, Charles Molineaux, News 10 NBC.
Charles, did Frawley try to explain any of the accusations against him?
Well, he didn't even try. Frawley is accused of taking customers' money and then not showing up to do work on landscaping or snow plowing jobs. He is criminally charged for getting work done in his truck and then allegedly giving the garage a bogus check.
Take care, Mr. Frawley. Can we talk to you about your business?
Brian Frawley went to court tonight as both vendors and customers accuse him of stiffing them.
Mr. Frawley, can people trust your business?
If you don't walk away from me, I'm going to take it as a threat.
He didn't say much, but former customers do.
Thrilled. Throw the book at him. I think he should be held on criminal charges.
Pat Olson says Frawley made a shambles of her home in Churchville after she hired him, then stopped showing up.
A lot of excuses for not getting the work done. He had a flat tire, had pneumonia, had a heart attack, hit a deer. I mean, there were every excuse in the book.
And STS Trailer and Truck Equipment in Rochester accuses Frawley of giving a worthless $6,500 check for the installation of a snowplow. That's what got Frawley arrested in January on charges of third-degree grand larceny. Other businesses also accused Frawley of giving them bad checks for supplies or work on his vehicles. While other customers, like Lindsay Schuld, say Frawley took their money for snow plowing over the winter and seldom or never did any work.
I'll have the court call the police on you.
I kind of got off a little bit easy compared to other people, which is too bad. but I just wish it would have been stopped before now, because it seems like it's been going on for quite a while.
Some customers are planning to sue Frawley. The Olsons actually did and won a $5,000 judgment against him. They say they haven't gotten that money yet, but they'll keep after him. Frawley's due back in court in July. Reporting live in Henrietta, Charles Molineaux, News 10 NBC.
When paramedics rushed to the Capurzo's house on Gaines Road, they were answering a call of a 64-year-old man in cardiac arrest. Not breathing, no pulse. A pretty grim scenario. But help was already here.
And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon.
Al Capurzo sings about a father separated from his son, but he's never been closer to his own son, 18-year-old Ken. 3 weeks ago, Al's heart stopped, seconds after he'd called for his son, and Ken found him unconscious.
It's quite scary to think of. If I was alone, I wouldn't be here.
Got him. Laid him right here. Very small airway. I got down here, checked his breathing.
Ken called 911 and went to work for 5 long minutes till emergency crews got there, using CPR he'd learned in 7th grade health class at Albion Middle School.
At that point, I was thinking of the worst. Very long 5 minutes. My imagination made it feel like 3 hours.
Al Capurzo now has an implanted pacemaker and wireless heart monitor, but only after he was rushed from the house and flown to Rochester General Hospital. And finally,
they had called me back and they said, "Your father's alive, the tube's out of him, and he's breathing." It was the greatest moment of my life, and I just teared up and started crying.
Al has no memory of the incident at all, just profound gratitude to his son and a resolve to seize what he calls a third chance at life.
I think there's a little more urgency. The projects that I want to institute, I'm finding myself wanting to get them done so that I can see them come to fruition.
Al Capurzo still faces weeks of rehabilitation to make sure he can get up and about. He says he'll really know he's made it when he gets out into the front yard to right this old rocking chair that was knocked down in the March windstorms. Ken is now seriously looking at becoming an EMT, or a nurse, or a doctor. He went to talk to a college advisor this afternoon. In Albion, Charles Molineaux, News 10 NBC. Well, normally people who live along Honeoye Lake say a day like today, the Sandy Bottom Beach would be crowded. In fact, its kids' swimming program was supposed to have started yesterday. Instead, today the beach is deserted, and along the shore is the disgusting, scummy blue-green slime of blue-green algae.
We definitely have an issue.
Libby West of Bloomfield has been swimming on Honeoye Lake since she was a kid, but would not get in the water today.
The water looks, it doesn't look good. We've definitely got the algae on the top, and sometimes you can definitely catch a good smell off the lake.
This is just one of a series of lakes where algae blooms have erupted in our recent warm weather. State DEC scientists report blooms in Chautauqua, Java, Hiawatha, and Oneida lakes, as well as others downstate, and they're warning people and pets to stay out.
The blooms can produce a variety of substances. Some of them can produce toxins, liver toxins, nerve toxins, or skin toxins, each of which can result in reactions for people, skin rashes, nausea, vomiting, headaches.
We don't let them in the water at this time, and we don't swim in the water at this time.
Mark Stryker, who lives at the north end of Honeoye Lake, says he makes sure his dogs steer clear, but that he's used to seeing algae blooms.
It's part of the cycle. It'll clear up eventually, and we'll be past it.
The state is cranking up its research into why these blooms keep happening and why they seem to be happening more often.
They can last anywhere from a couple of hours to an entire growing season.
The Ontario County Health Director says it could be a while before the lake is safe to go back into. Even after the visible algae bloom dissipates, then the state will come in and do testing to determine if the water's okay. In Honeoye, Charles Molineaux, News 10 NBC. Well, when Collins went before the judge and actually started talking today, it was a big change from what we've seen for about a year. For months, he has been insisting he's innocent and promising he'd be vindicated. Today, he essentially confessed. It's a big change, prosecutors say, has been a long, hard time coming.
No one is above the law, and it is because of our office's commitment to and pursuit of that ideal that Collins is now a convicted felon and no longer a member of Congress.
Chris, why did you decide to take the plea?
Collins didn't speak on his way into court, but in court he spelled out details of the charges he now admits to, said he's sorry, and pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit securities fraud and lying to FBI investigators. Collins was on the board of biotech company Innate Immunotherapeutics, and he told the judge that 2 years ago he got private information that the company's experimental multiple sclerosis drug MIS-416 had failed in clinical trials, and said he knew that news would devastate its stock price, so he illegally revealed that information to his son Cameron, knowing Cameron would sell off his stock and avoid a big loss.
Collins admitted to, among other things, illegally tipping his son while standing on the White House lawn.
Collins said he wanted to own up to his action, which he told the judge he regrets more than he can say. The 2 charges he admits to could each get him up to 5 years in prison when he's sentenced on January 17th. And his formal resignation as a member of Congress is now in effect. He is out of office.
Collins helped write the laws of this country, yet acted as if the law didn't apply to him.
In talking about his regrets, Collins repeatedly mentioned how sorry he was for the pain he's caused his family, and got to mention his family one more time when he made his guilty plea and the judge asked if he was under the influence of any drugs or alcohol. Collins said no, but last night he did sit down for a beer with his daughter. In New York, Charles Molineaux, News 10 NBC. And Jennifer, in court documents, witnesses say Estacio even got angry and said her rights were being violated when she tried to buy a shotgun and wasn't allowed to. She came here tonight for a hurriedly scheduled arraignment. Judge Estacio, did you try to buy a gun? Judge Leticia Estacio was silent during her trip to court this evening, facing 1 count of attempted criminal purchase of a weapon for allegedly trying to buy a shotgun, which would be a felony violation of probation from her 2016 drunk driving conviction. Depositions from witnesses say back on April 2nd, Estacio came here to the Dick's Sporting Goods store in Greece, that she seemed agitated and that she tried to buy a gun. An employee declined to sell her one based on store policy, and she announced she was going to go somewhere else to get a gun.
I don't play with guns. I've never held a gun. I've never touched a gun.
This past weekend on Facebook Live, Estacio denied trying to get a gun. But witnesses say she then traveled from Greece to the Dick's in Henrietta and tried again and was refused again. On Facebook, she said the person at Dick's wasn't her.
My baby sister, she recently attempted to buy a gun, and she has a pistol permit. And they flagged her and refused to sell her a gun because they decided that she was me.
But in a Facebook post of her own, Felicia Estacio said she had never been to Dick's to buy a gun. And statements from the Dick's employees say they not only recognized Leticia Estacio from TV, but that she identified herself with her driver's license. Estacio, the witnesses at Dick's say that it was you and you tried to buy a gun. Is that true? And no further answers were forthcoming. Estacio was released on her own recognizance. She's due back in Henrietta Town Court on May 3rd. In Rochester, Charles Molineaux, News 10 NBC.
Among those weary travelers, our own Charles Molineaux, who joins us now from the airport. And Charles, I bet you had a lot of company. Plenty of company, Jennifer. I ended up talking about it on Facebook as this all went on over the course of about 32 hours. We'll take a look at some of that. This all started, and the first complication popped up when my flight out of Charlotte, North Carolina, supposed to go to Baltimore, was canceled. That was yesterday morning. Take a look at how it unfolded. I heard a lot of other people's stories, too.
I go to Ole Miss. I was coming from Memphis, and then my flight got canceled. So then it was supposed to be yesterday morning.
Supposed to fly out tomorrow now, Wednesday morning at 7:35. Looks like that one has been canceled as well.
We then from Jamaica to Chicago to Baltimore, going to Rochester, then to Rome, and then back to Albany to pick up our car.
How many stops?
Oh my gosh, I can't count that high.
For a while there, I was booked to fly to Buffalo in the middle of the
the night tonight, like Mark Rumsey's wife.
She's stranded. She's supposed to get into Buffalo about 10 o'clock tonight. That's her latest ETA. Buffalo. So I got to drive from here to Buffalo.
However, coming to find out, the folks at Southwest tell me there is another flight I could take that goes to Baltimore and then to Rochester. That one, however, leaves out of Raleigh-Durham, so I got to get to Raleigh-Durham. That's where the next complication comes in. There were no rental cars available. A lot of people simply decided to hit the road and booked them all.
If we didn't get on this flight, I was going to rent a car and drive to Rochester.
From Baltimore?
Yes.
I think I've been good because my guardian angels came to my rescue. Dan and Misty. Where are you going? You're going to Durham?
Yeah, we live there.
That got us all to Raleigh-Durham International early this morning. By early afternoon, I first set foot in a plane to Baltimore. That's where Guy and Janie had been stranded trying to get from Dominica to Canandaigua.
But then 2 other flights were canceled as well, so next thing you know, we got on and we're ready to move.
So you were in Baltimore for
2 nights. 2 nights. So it's time to get home.
And our flight finally did arrive in Rochester a little after 5 tonight. The end of the line for some of us, but for others, the beginning of a long car ride out in the snow. Reporting live at the airport, Charles Molineaux, News 10 NBC.
Well, when you talk about the turbine debate in New York, local leaders almost inevitably bring up Article 10, which, when it comes to big power projects, takes power away from local lawmakers and voters. Right now, the developer Apex Energy of Virginia is planning to lease land from local farmers for its Lighthouse Wind Energy Farm.
To me, it's mesmerizing to see the windmills.
Floyd Kerner is looking forward to seeing his cornfields sprout wind turbines. He'd get about $12,000 per turbine, and he's hoping to host 3 of them.
We're getting up to the age where we're close to retirement, and it would be a nice nest egg to help us through the golden years.
The majority of people are opposed to this. They don't think it's appropriate.
Pam Atwater's home is near where some of the towers could go, and she dreads it. Apex is planning on 50 to 60 turbines, possibly more than 600 feet tall, which would dwarf the biggest of the local silos or even the skyscrapers of downtown Rochester.
It's going to change the nature of the area to be more industrial than rural.
Apex says Lighthouse represents a chance for the community to join Governor Andrew Cuomo's 50 by 30 push to have 50% of the state's electricity come from renewable sources by 2030, and to benefit from payments to the towns and rent to the farmers.
I think they see it as actually complementary to agriculture and complementary to their view and vision of the land and allowing the farms to stay in these families. Whenever I talk to someone about wind energy, I encourage them to drive down to towns, down 77, down to, say, the town of Sheldon, for example, and talk to a landowner.
News 10 took that encouragement and drove down to Wyoming County, where the Orangeville wind farm has been in operation with 58 wind turbines since 2014.
Been a living hell.
Paul and Linda Maxon of Warsaw say the benefits to local communities don't make up for what's happened to the landscape or the noise.
Sometimes it's, as we heard today, a surf type sound. And sometimes it's like a jet taking off from an aircraft carrier or runway.
In the fall, this is spectacular. It's spectacular, the colors. Of course, now it's just garbage.
The wind turbine project is toxic.
In Yates, town supervisor Jim Simon was elected as a write-in candidate because he opposes Lighthouse. And the town board has passed resolutions and zoning rules to limit tall turbines.
It isn't all about money. It's about the values of the community.
But the actual decision on whether Lighthouse goes ahead belongs only to a 7-member New York State siting board. Under Article 10 of the State Public Service Law, the board can ignore any local rules it considers unreasonably burdensome.
We were all stunned to think that we were not going to be able to, that the town itself was not going to be able to make the decision about this.
The State Public Service Commission says direct public involvement is a fundamental, deeply ingrained aspect of the siting board's review process.
At this point, there's still a little bit, up in the air, and I think folks, understandably, are really looking for more information. So I'm eager to get that to them.
The 50 to 60 towers of the Lighthouse project would crank out 201 megawatts of electricity, enough to power 53,000 average homes, and less than 1/3 the capacity of the Somerset power plant, which is already there. Apex estimates it could take thousands of turbines to meet the state's 50 by 30 goals, which activists say means the debate over this project is just a beginning.
What we're talking about doing in New York State is taking these huge structures and spreading them out all over the state. Many of the beautiful vistas you have are going to be gone.
Yeah, Brett, this family is planning to leave tomorrow morning from the airport on the latest part of what has been a grueling journey, but has now turned into an emotional opportunity to say thank you to a friend they've never met. Actually, a whole lot of friends, a team of them they didn't even know they had. Tristan Thompson is now an energetic little boy, but a year and a half ago he was a very sick one. Born with the rare immune system disorder chronic granulomatous disease, threatening to cut his life short.
And all of a sudden you get this phone call that changes your life.
Tristan and his family successfully fought back with the help of experimental stem cell therapy and one stranger, an anonymous bone marrow donor known only by a stuffed penguin and get well note he sent the family.
We then spent the next, year just imagining who this person could be. Where could they live? What would they look like? What kind of background?
Well, he's anonymous no more. 61-year-old football coach Bob Byers of Michigan emailed the Thompsons in August, and it turns out he's been thinking about them as much as they've been thinking about him. Byers' team, the South Bend John Adams High School Eagles, has been cheering and praying for Tristan and named him their team captain. Tomorrow, this family plans to fly to Michigan to meet their hero.
We're just so grateful to be connected to him now for life.
A hero even a big brother can appreciate.
He's holding Tristan's blood. He put his blood inside his body.
What did that do?
It made him all healthy.
The Thompsons' trip will include a get-together with Byers' football team, the Eagles, and a game this Friday, and their first conversation. They have deliberately avoided talking on the phone.
I need to meet him, and it's just too much to handle emotionally. I've been waiting a year and a half to meet this man and just give him a bone-crushing hug.
After hearing that the John Adams High School Eagles have been cheering and praying for Tristan, his dad, Tim, says he knew it, because when things were looking grim, the family somehow found strength, and now he knows where it came from. The family is asking that we all step up to help out by registering for the online donor database, which you can find on our website. Just go to this story at WHEC.com. Reporting live at Great International Airport in Rochester, Charles Molineaux, News 10 NBC.